It seems like everywhere around the world, everyone is facing a cost of living crisis. Here, things are really expensive in the United States. Things are through the roof in the United Kingdom. Canada is facing a cost of living crisis. Australia, like all over the world, we're all facing the same problem. Day-to-day costs are going up, our wages aren't, and we're trying to grapple with paying the difference. And I think for a long time, a lot of us have been blaming inflation and government policies, especially here in the United States, and that is certainly true. Our currency has been grossly debased. It's worth a fraction like of what it's supposed to be. Like a dollar isn't actually worth a dollar. We've seen productivity gains decoupled from wages. And so wages have flatlined over the past several decades. We've seen a deterioration in job quality. We've seen a substitution of decent middle class paying jobs with lower paying hourly wage jobs. And we've seen an increased financialization of just about everything, buying a home, getting a car, going to college, like everything is just costing more and more and more. And so now we've kind of reached this precipice where the debt is unsustainable at a federal level. It's not sustainable by US households, and everyone is feeling the squeeze. But I think there's another piece to the story that isn't being talked about as much, and I'm guilty of this. Like, I don't talk about this as much as I probably should. But part of it is a deliberate, concerted effort by large corporations who have large market share over the industries that they dominate. They have access to data, they have access to suppliers and distribution networks, and they can negotiate contracts and agreements in their favor. They just have so many different things that they can leverage that they're able to control and manipulate prices. And now that we're entering into this world of AI and an economy that's dominated by AI, it's not just jobs that are going to be affected. It's also going to be how we consume and how we participate in the economy. So this is an essay I wrote a year ago about digital price tags, and this essay kind of flopped. It didn't really get as much attention as I hoped it would, because I think this is a pretty big deal. But based on a recent study that I'll share with you after I go through this, I think people are starting to wake up. So I decided to write this essay after walking into Whole Foods one day, and literally overnight, they had changed their paper price tags that used to line the shelves with these little digital placards. And so if you've been to a store recently, maybe you've seen these. Typically, in the past, these have all been pieces of paper, and companies used to hire, they would have teams of people who would come and on a weekly basis change out the price tags. And I vividly remember this. This is a core memory for me, because I would always go grocery shopping with my mom on the weekends. And I would remember we'd go in the stores and I would see the people with bags in their hand, throwing away the old price tags, putting on the new ones. So I vividly remember workers changing out the price tags. And now that has fallen to the wayside. Digital price tags are taking over. But this kind of opens up Pandora's box for several unintended consequences. So, the implementation of digital price tags in physical retail spaces like a grocery store seems like a natural progression of where our economy is going. It makes sense. We're just in this new digitally integrated world. And there's a lot of potential upsides to this. It's not all negative, but it raises questions about how digital technologies like this and the data that's being collected by these companies is going to be used. So if you're a retailer, this represents a really great opportunity, honestly, to become more efficient. So instead of hiring teams of people to go and manually count inventory and then manually change out the price tags and track everything in old Excel spreadsheet style inventory management systems, this can all be optimized. So you can license out some SaaS product to do inventory management for you. It can connect to these digital price tags, and then it helps you keep track of inventory in real time, what's moving off the shelves, what the price point is, and then you can obviously change the prices as you need to get stuff to move, because grocery stores in particular are a low margin business. It's a volume based business. You need products to sell. Having something sit on the grocery store shelf for several weeks, obviously one, isn't good because food eventually expires. But two, you're not there You're not a storage facility, right? If you're in the business of being a grocery store, you're in the business of moving products off your shelves as quickly as possible. You're not, renting out shelf space to whatever brand, and just letting it hang out there on your shelf for free. Like things have got to move. So a lot of times stores will optimize prices periodically to help incentivize things to move. And for customers too, I think digital price tags also enhance the shopping experience by collecting real-time data on your shopping behavior, especially if you use like an app and a rewards card. A lot of grocery stores have rewards cards. You can get personalized rewards and discounts for to loyal shoppers. So in the past, my mom was a big coupon. We affectionately called her Coupon Mama. She would always coupon. In the past, like coupons were pretty generic. I remember going through like the Sunday paper and getting like looking through the coupons, and there was always stuff that kind of sucked. The P&G, the Procter and Gamble one, always sucked. It was always non-food items, and it was just like the name brand stuff we didn't use. A good example would be like Charmin toilet paper, for example. Like my mom always bought like the cheap stuff, right? So that was always like stupid stuff like that, and I never liked looking at those coupons because of it. But imagine a world where now stores have data on you. You have like a profile, right? Like a shopper loyalty profile, not just a card you swipe, but like an app on your phone. It knows your shopping behavior and your habits, and now you could get personalized coupons. So instead of getting all the generic ones that everyone else is getting, it knows that, okay, maybe you're someone who doesn't like a coupon for a specific product, but you like a coupon for like $5 off your next purchase of $50 or more. Well, I've gotten those a couple times from HEB, and I'll tell you, like, it does make me think, oh, okay, can I like bundle some of my like things I need to get together so I can have a larger basket so then I can use this coupon? So it does definitely incentivize shopping behavior, and it's a good way to reward customers. But for all the benefits that these digital systems promise, there are obviously unintended consequences that we have to talk about. So the issue that's being raised is, will shoppers start seeing tailored prices alongside rewards? So it's not just, okay, HEB is going to say to Amanda, okay, you've shopped here, you've bought this, here's this reward. No, it could go a step further and be like, oh, well, I know that, it's that time of the month for you. You're craving chocolate. You're more likely going to buy chocolate as a result. Let's jack up the price slightly because you're not going to know the difference. You're not going to care. You're going to buy the chocolate anyway. So it's an opportunity to eke out a little bit more profit out of me. So there's that implication. And then there's also the bigger problem of what happens to the economy at large when consumers can no longer trust the prices they're seeing on a day-to-day basis. If you go into the store one day and the price is different another day, how is that going to affect you? And I've personally experienced this. Like, I've seen prices go up in real time, and it does affect you psychologically. It makes you feel like you're being taken advantage of, and it's made me look for alternatives. I am doing my best to no longer buy cheese at HEB because it's $5 a pound. I can go to Costco and I can get a 2.5 pound block of cheddar cheese for $10, right? So I am consciously aware of that and am deliberately changing my shopping behavior accordingly. So I think that's something that stores need to think about. So pricing is the most important mechanism in a capitalist economy and an economy in general, because it allows buyers to tell producers what to produce and in what quantity. So it's the signal. Like, we, the consumers, send the signal to producers to produce things, and we tell them what to produce, what we want, and what we're willing to pay. If we screw with the pricing mechanism in the economy, we're completely disrupting the system that allocates capital and tells producers what to produce and in what quantities, and tells retailers and sellers what consumers are willing to pay. And so this creates an entirely new economy that's no longer predicated on supply and demand and capital allocation, and it moves us further and further away from capitalism. So I think it's really important to pay attention to how pricing is changing and how new technologies like algorithmic pricing are affecting changes. So what you're seeing with these digital price tags is the implementation of dynamic pricing, otherwise known as algorithmic pricing, inside retail spaces. So it's important to keep in mind that this type of pricing mechanism has already existed. This isn't like some new thing. It's already exists. And you see this when you go buy an airline ticket. I think everyone has experienced this. You see algorithms determine how much a ticket for a flight in a particular seat on a particular plane, particular time of day costs, and it'll vary from time to time. And you can set like Google Trends to track this stuff too if you haven't ever done that. It can fluctuate by hundreds of dollars depending on when you buy your ticket and time of day and how long you wait and that kind of thing. So it's feasible, like the next flight you take, like maybe your ticket costs $50, unlikely, but let's say maybe yours costs $50. Well, the person next to you could have cost $1,000, right? So we're already used to this. And of course, gig apps like Uber and Lyft kind of made this more mainstream and more acceptable. So while like maybe you don't fly all that often, so this isn't something you encounter on a daily basis, maybe use Lyft and maybe you use Uber. And so you've seen this play out if you use those services where prices constantly change based on the supply of drivers who are available to offer rides and the number of riders who actively search for a ride. And then obviously depending on the time of day, I think, or not time of day, but the like if there's a specific holiday, I think everyone knows like New Year's Eve is notorious for surge pricing, but there's certain periods of time where even taking an Uber or Lyft is going to be far more expensive, or even certain destinations, right? Picking up a Uber or Lyft from an airport is going to be far more expensive than if you're going somewhere else locally in a town. So we're already like conditioned to accept these things, but they've always been with a digital interface up until now. Like you make a reservation on a computer or on your phone, use the app for Uber or Lyft on your phone. You're not like walking into a store and seeing dynamic pricing like this play out in real time. And when this does happen, people get upset. So a good example is, so Chipotle has been hiking their menu prices consistently over the past several years. Part of this is rising costs, inflation, labor, all that kind of stuff. But I think part of it too is they're trying to get more bang for the buck out of their burritos. And people start to notice, right? So when prices do go up in the consumer economy where you're purchasing a physical product, headlines are made and people pay attention and people notice. So this isn't necessarily something that's flying under the radar. So dynamic pricing offers efficiency gains for retailers and it helps them boost their bottom line, which is one of the reasons why I think you're seeing greater adoption of this technology. So like I said, digital price tags are easier to manage. Grocery stores carry like tens of thousands of different items. And so with so many different products available at a given point in time, dynamic pricing tags are just easier to manage. Like it's far more easier to manage something and have it fully integrated into a digital inventory management system than to go through and catalog everything by hand and then replace manual paper tags. It's just so much easier to do things digitally. And so that's what the companies like Whole Foods, which is owned by Amazon, they have the ability to do that. So they're, of course, they're doing that. And then everything is integrated into one holistic system. So you know what products are on the shelves and you can integrate that at the point of sale at the checkout. And so it makes it so much easier. And so the benefit of this from a retail perspective is that managers can see sales velocity happening in real time. And this is, like I said, this is important for grocery stores because they're in the business of volume. And so they want to get stuff off their shelves as quickly as possible. So as soon as an item is scanned at checkout, you can see what customers are purchasing. You can look for patterns, and from those patterns, you can extrapolate information. You can set, weekly sales based on those patterns. Or if you see something isn't moving fast enough, you can program a discount into a price tag. And it just automatically updates, right? So again, it's super efficient. And you can do this like produce would be a great example. If you're noticing, okay, like produce is, we got to get some avocados moving. Like this is a perfect way to do that. So it makes a lot of sense. Then of course it makes the shoppers' lives easier too, because it just makes it easier to collect data and reward customers for their shopping habits. And Amazon already does this. Like you've probably encountered this on Amazon. So this is already happening, but now it's just being applied to physical retail settings. So by leveraging digital price tags, retailers can introduce dynamic pricing to move inventory faster, reducing waste, while simultaneously increasing revenue. So at the surface, this is not a bad thing. This actually is a very good business decision. The problem is it makes it easier for retailers to create tailored prices that interfere with the market's natural pricing mechanisms. So there's an incentive for corporations to manipulate prices and engage in price gouging. And that's because they have access to large amounts of consumer data and digital tools like price tags, and increasingly you're seeing digital menu boards as well. So if you go into like a McDonald's, for example, or a Wendy's, you're no longer going to see like the old school static price boards. You're seeing digital price boards that are connected to the internet, connected to data sources that can update and change in real time. And so this creates a permissible environment for retailers to interfere with market pricing. And so as everything becomes more digitally integrated, it leads to more surveillance pricing to stay on top of demand signals, because again, demand is the opportunity for businesses to capitalize on higher revenue. If you have a surge of people who are coming to your store to get a particular product, and they're all kind of buying the same thing. And if you've ever worked, maybe not retail, but food service, you may notice this. Like whenever I've worked at coffee shops, I've definitely noticed this. Like you'll get rushes, and it seems like everyone is buying the same thing. Not everyone, but you'll get like the same order multiple times in a row, and you're like, oh, what's going on here? This is kind of weird. So it allows you to see these patterns and keep up with it and change prices based on an individual's desires and needs and expectations. But the problem is it's not necessarily going to make it easier for you to buy things. I think that's going to be like the sugar coating on it to make it palatable to consumers. The goal of a lot of this is to create more ways to extract revenue from you. So I give the example here of a credit card, right? So if you're going to Whole Foods, for example, or you're shopping on Amazon or whatever, and Amazon already has data about you, already knows your credit score, and already knows your shopping habits, how much money you typically spend, if you're struggling to make payments, all that kind of stuff. It knows more about you than you know about you, okay? And a lot of times these businesses as well have in-house credit cards that they're trying to sell to you. And a lot of these credit card companies, they'll have a deal with who's ever managing the credit card to get a kickback for like however much like interest is generated from whatever charges are made. So if you sign up with a credit card with Amazon, I think Chase manages it, or it used to. Like Chase is going to manage the card, but then Amazon is going to get a kickback, like a percentage back of however much interest, which is revenue that Chase collects off that financial product, right? And so what is stopping a company like Whole Foods, which is owned by Amazon and now has these digital price tags, from increasing prices to such a point where suddenly it's no longer possible for you to just buy your groceries on debit? Maybe you need to finance it and installment payments, or maybe you need to, take out a credit card or swipe a credit card for it, right? This data is accessible to these companies, especially grocery store chains that are, owned by large corporations. They have this data about you, so they can manipulate and change prices that takes it to a threshold so that it's like just a little too expensive, just a little too out of your price range. But if you want that thing enough, that basket of goods, whatever you're shopping for, if you want it enough, you're willing to tolerate maybe a little bit of risk, a little financial risk, go into a little bit of debt, swipe a credit card in order to get that. And so the more you swipe a credit card and the more debt you accrue, the more profitable you are to a lot of these businesses, right? So with surveillance pricing, retailers can access your personal information and they can tell your ability to afford something and modify prices accordingly in order to push you in the direction of financing a purchase rather than just paying for it outright. So that's just one example, right? That's one example. But stuff like that can happen just based on the profile these businesses have of you and their desire to extract as much revenue from you as possible. So constant price changes can reduce confidence in the overall stability of prices, and that can stymie the economy. So I give one example here. Wendy's has announced, so this isn't just grocery stores, by the way. Wendy's and a lot of fast food places have announced investments in digital infrastructure, so AI, dynamic pricing, digital menu boards, etc. And so Wendy's is implementing this. So it's feasible. If you take the or surge pricing that you see with Uber and Lyft, it's feasible where with digital price boards and dynamic pricing, and if you're ordering from an app is included in this digital pricing infrastructure, so the ability to change prices on an app, it's possible where a Wendy's location could be going through a rush during lunchtime. You could enter the drive-through expecting to pay one price for something, and then you get to the checkout and you pay an entirely different price based on the surge pricing of the lunch hour rush. Alternatively, based on other metadata from the surrounding area, if Wendy's knows that there's a ton of people right now at McDonald's next door or Burger King and they want more people to come to Wendy's, they can lower prices, send a notification in the app like, hey, anyone who comes in the next hour, get a Frosty for 99 cents, right? Like they now have the ability to do that. And so I think you're going to start seeing more of this happen. And so this is obviously a problem because the ability to increase labor supply doesn't exist, which means surge pricing in retail is one-dimensional. So what I mean by that is you're not just going to magically get more workers to like take care of basically an inorganic fabricated rush or a surge in demand. Like if you're manipulating prices to incentivize more people to come to your restaurant, or you're trying to get more profit out of them, increase like upsell as they're in the line to order at the drive-thru, you're changing prices or whatever. It's not like you're increasing the supply of workers who are working in those establishments to meet the demand. So you're exploiting workers, you're generating more revenue per labor hour that you're spending, but you're also exploiting the shoppers, the consumers, because you're charging them more than what they know that they used to pay, they're accustomed to paying. And people are waking up to this. Like they know, they absolutely know that when they're being taken advantage of, and they're, like I said, making choices to not shop at certain places or not buy certain things because of that. And so corporations win at the expense of both workers and customers. And this creates a new market dynamic where a company like Wendy's isn't just increasing prices to meet demand anymore. It's overtly engaging in price gouging. And so over the long run, this is going to hurt consumer confidence because it's going to make shoppers weary of spending more money than they ought to. Like if you're being taken advantage of, you're being surveyed, you're going to be like more mindful of like what you're doing and why you're spending as much money. And no one wants to feel like this, right? So getting customers to keep showing up is going to be a hard sell when they have no idea what the prices are going to be. Too much surge pricing will push customers to look for an alternative or do without, which is going to lead to a forfeiture of company sales altogether. And I recently, yesterday on Substack, I wrote an essay about this with regard to Las Vegas. This is happening and has been happening in Las Vegas. Tourists have been priced out. They've been price gouged by the resort operators. They know this. They're acutely aware of it because they've been coming to Vegas for years. They remember when you didn't have to pay for parking, when there weren't as high of resort fees, when bottles of water, weren't $7, $10, $12 a bottle, when cocktails weren't $25 a cocktail. Like they remember old Vegas, right? They remember what it used to be, and they know things have changed. And so they're just not going to Vegas anymore. And you're seeing this, like it's reflected in the tourist numbers. Like Vegas is hurting right now. The local economy is hurting. Workers are going without shifts. Like it's not good. So it's clear, like when you push the prices too high, customers will pull back. Like that's definitely going to happen. And it's important to keep in mind that surge pricing isn't the same thing as demand-based pricing, right? It's one thing if there's an increase in demand for something. It's another thing to increase like the supply of something. So let me give you like a good example. So if you've followed the Starbucks saga over this past like winter season, they had the bear cup that people were obsessed with. And so people were like lining up for this bear cup, and it was really a psyop. And Starbucks does this all the time, guys, where they'll have like this hype over a particular cup or tumbler, or in this case, the bear cup. And they'll hype it on social media, but stores won't get enough supply of it. So you'll have like 30 people in line waiting to buy only 2 of these cups, and then they'll get really disappointed and they'll post about it, and then they go onto the like eBay and stuff, and people were spending like hundreds of dollars on this cup in secondhand markets, right? So that's an example of like demand-based pricing. Like you create demand for something and you have scarcity, and so it drives like the prices up, but it drives people to come to your place, it drives PR, that kind of stuff. Okay, that's one thing. The surge pricing would be if you see, Starbucks has the infrastructure to do this. You see, like, there's 30 people camped outside. You have all the metadata from their phones and the apps on their phones. They're big Starbucks fans. They're there. You see that there's 30 people camped outside. There's only 2 in the store. Then instead of selling at the retail price of whatever, like $29.99, you use dynamic pricing to say, okay, it's going to be $300 per cup. Okay. And obviously, you're going to weed out a lot of people who aren't going to be willing to pay it. And the people who were willing to pay it because they did on eBay, they're the ones who are going to be able to buy it, right? So that's the difference between demand-based pricing and surge-based pricing. So there are short periods of time when surge pricing does occur, and it does induce price changes. So the price of eggs over the beginning of the year because of avian flu, when the supply went down and demand stayed the same, like that's one example. But it's another thing for the price of eggs to go up when one too many shoppers decide to head to the grocery store on a Sunday afternoon. So it'd be like if there's just a large flux of people at the grocery store, and if you've been to a grocery store when it's really busy, you just want to kind of get in and get out. It's one thing to like change the prices to reflect the behavior that people just want to get in and out. And so if you raise it by 20 cents with a digital price tag, then no one's the wiser, you can do that. So it's going to send mixed signals to the market. It's going to destroy confidence. I think the use of artificial intelligence and pricing algorithms raises questions about the ethics of surveillance pricing. We know our personal data is being used by advertisers, but I think using that data to set prices in retail spaces is definitely a bridge too far. And we're seeing a reality where, this technology can definitely be used to create discounts, but it can also be used to create price discrimination as well, and tailored pricing. So this is definitely happening. Like I said, I wrote this a year ago and it didn't really gain much traction because I think this was really like still theoretical. But More Perfect Union just released a study they did. They worked with Consumer Reports and Groundwork, and they looked at how app-based ordering, so they looked at Instacart in particular, but how grocery stores were changing prices, using dynamic pricing to change prices. I will say More Perfect Union isn't necessarily the best media outlet. They do skew their coverage. They definitely are biased, but I think there's some things that are decent reporting. I think this is a really good example. I think, we're so ingrained in our political divisiveness right now that we forget there's stuff we're on the same team. Okay. Like it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. I think we can all agree no one wants to be price gouged, right? Like we're kind of tired of this. And like the cost of living is affecting all of us. So I think we're all kind of on the same team here. Like we don't want to go into a grocery store and I pay, $3 for a dozen eggs and you pay $5 for a dozen eggs, right? Like we don't want to live in that world. So I think this is worth diving into, and the study that they did. So I'm gonna play it and we'll go through it because I think this really shows like literally what I wrote about is coming to fruition.
The holy grail for a long time has been, what if we could charge every single person the maximum amount that we know they're able to or willing to pay?
They know things about us that we don't know. They're smarter than us, and we're training them in a way that is incalculable.
Walk into any grocery store, and on average, everything is about 30% more expensive than it was in 2020.
Inflation, supply chains, tariffs.
We've heard it all. But what if something else is happening? Something intentional.
What if someone is charged $2 for these eggs, but another person is charged $2.40 at the same exact store?
And it's pushing prices up. 5 months ago, a researcher reached out to me about Instacart. She'd been studying their Washington, D.C. workforce. Different pay for nearly identical work. Her question: if they do this to workers, what about consumers?
This is a really good point. There are other teams of people who have done the exact same things. That they have sat Uber drivers, for example, in a room just sitting around a table, and they've all logged into the app at the same time, and they've seen like they've gone through and looked at like the jobs and the gigs are being offered, and they're all offered different prices. DoorDash is well known for doing this. They have tiered payouts where the more active you are on the platform, the more deliveries you give, the more access you'll get to higher paying gigs. So it basically requires you to take the really crappy stuff, the gigs that pay out $2, $3, $4, maybe the single Starbucks delivery, right? You have to pay those to hit your acceptance rate threshold before you'll get access to the higher paying gigs. So we know this is happening on the worker side of things. This is already well documented. So this is a fair point. Like if it's happening on the worker side of things, why wouldn't we also expect the same technology, these same algorithms, to be leveraged against consumers to extract more prices or higher prices to extract more revenue out of people?
Before joining More Perfect Union, I worked in grocery pricing. so I agreed to help investigate. The problem? It wasn't easy to test. Grocery prices change all the time, for legitimate reasons. Receipts you can't compare. If we wanted to do this, we'd need a team. A researcher, community organizers, other journalists, and most importantly, regular people who care. Lots of them. 5 months of digging, what we found is bigger than Instacart. Yes, inflation is real, but something else has been pushing prices higher this whole time. There's a system, one that grocery stores and tech companies built together. It learns from every purchase.
It's not just online. It's in the physical stores you walk into, with the primary goal: maximize profit.
Day by day, it's moving billions of dollars, one penny at a time.
Here's how we uncovered it, how it's turning the grocery business into a gold mine, and why, without regulation, your grocery bill may keep climbing no matter what happens with inflation.
Okay, and this is where there's bias with More Perfect Union. They say without regulation, like, okay, yeah, like regulation is one way to solve this. I don't think regulation is the way to solve it. I'll say, more at the end, but I think there are things we can do to combat this. Regulation, in my opinion, not the solution.
I'm now going to ask you to take out your phone, and we're going to get started with shopping for 20 items at the Safeway.
This is Katie Wells. She's the Director of Research at Groundwork Collaborative. She's the one who reached out. The plan was pretty simple. Get everyone in a room, open up Instacart. Store, same items. On phones and computers. Select pickup to remove any delivery calculations. And write our basket totals down on a note card. All to test a simple question. Were shoppers being charged different amounts for the same exact item at the same exact store and time?
Congratulations, guys. You have finished the test.
First, we all shared our cart totals.
We're in the same room, the same address ordering, and we still had different prices.
You're the highest.
I'm not surprised. What I've come to understand is that a lot of things that we do online is predicated on algorithms.
Different totals. There's plausible explanations. Promotions, user error, app issues. But if the items themselves had different prices, that's something else.
The items had upwards of 3 different prices offered.
Katie analyzed the data.
The greatest difference was about a 70-cent spread. For eggs, the prices varied from $4.59 to $4.69 down to $4.28. It was a 41-cent span.
One store, one moment in time. It's a small sample size. This could be a fluke.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. You have found your way to the Consumer Reports Grocery Pricing webinar.
The problem with testing any of this is that these systems are so massive that you need scale to even try. Consumer Reports joined the collaboration. They brought a volunteer network, community organizers, a reporter. Alongside them, we recruited volunteers, over 400 people. Same process. Everyone opens Instacart. Same store, same items. When pickup wasn't available, same delivery address. Same moment. Screenshot everything. Submit. The team verified every entry, cross-checked every screenshot, built the database. Katie crunched the data. And when the data came back, I gotta be honest, I stared at it for a while because what we found was weird. I'm gonna show you some basket totals. Some people were charged about $114 for the 20 items. Others, nearly $124.
This wasn't in 1 or 2 cases. This was the lion's share of shoppers for the lion's share of items.
If you zoom in, nearly 3 out of 4 products had different prices during the experiments. 4 different prices for wheat thins. 5 different prices for eggs. 3 prices for peanut butter. Wait, what? The system sorted people into price groups, where each person was charged the same for every item. For this test, there were 4 price groups. Same cart, same store, same moment. Same with this test. For this store, 7 different price groups. This didn't seem random, but who or what was doing the sorting? Back in August, before we even ran the test, I called Instacart. We don't set prices, retailers do. And we believed them, but the group suggested something deeper was going on. Why would an algorithm sort people into buckets where everyone pays the exact same prices? Not just on one item, but across multiple products. All higher together, all lower together. I started researching, and that's when I stumbled on surveillance pricing. Companies tracking your behavior, your purchase history, and charging you based on that. It's a type of algorithmic pricing where companies hand pricing over to an algorithm.
It's almost impossible for people outside the companies practicing the dark art of algorithm price determination, exactly what is driving those algorithms to set the prices that we observe.
Len Sherman studies this at Columbia's Business School. Was that what was happening here? When we showed Instacart the test results, they were clear. Retailers control all pricing. The findings were just stores putting out random feelers to see where the pricing sweet spot is. They aren't targeting you specifically. So we verified with the stores we tested. First, Albertsons Safeway.
So he just says something like they're putting out feelers to test the pricing, and this makes sense. So a lot of times digital marketers will do what's called A/B testing. I mean, I do this with my thumbnails and my titles, where you test different things. So you might see a thumbnail and have clicked on this video, and it's not the same thumbnail that someone else clicked on. So this is well-known practice. A lot of people do this. So this makes perfect sense. So if in the marketing side of things, people are doing this to A/B test how audiences and customers respond to different things, why not also do prices to see how people respond and react to prices? I mean, that makes perfect logical sense. So in this case, if that is indeed true, they're not necessarily discriminating on you based on like your personal profile. They're just arbitrarily selecting who to send different prices to test the market. Regardless, they're still collecting data. They're still seeing how people behave, and they're shaping those behavioral patterns into cohorts, and then they're bucketing people into cohorts. So while individualized tailored pricing might not be happening at this very moment right now, in a year or two, certainly that could be the outcome.
Instacart partner, silence. Then we contacted Target. They responded, and honestly, my jaw dropped. They told us, we don't work with Instacart. We don't set prices. We have nothing to do with any of this. Wait, Instacart says retailers control the prices, and Target says they don't even work with Instacart? I started digging. Turns out, in 2017, Target spent over $500 million to buy Shipt, Instacart's competitor. Why would they help Instacart? We asked Instacart about Target's response. Instacart admitted they actually do manage Target's prices on the marketplace, and that they were running tests to figure out how much they can charge on top of Target's normal prices. Their explanation shifted, but the question we started with was still the same. How does the system sort people into different price groups? To figure that out, we needed to understand what Instacart actually does. You may think of Instacart as a delivery app, but it's much bigger than that.
With Instacart is more the technology. I don't think of it as a grocery delivery company. I think of it more of a technology company.
Selling technology that powers grocery websites, advertising campaigns, promotions. In 2022, Instacart bought Eversight, a company that optimizes grocery prices.
Eversight says it runs constant experiments that are not made visible to consumers, and it is running tests in part to collect data about how much I'm willing to pay for canola oil, and it's using that information to likely create more profits for these companies.
The company calls it AI for Everyday Price Performance. The website promises 2 to 5% profit increases. In early November, Consumer Reports ran follow-up experiments at Costco. They found price gaps, 15% on a bag of chips. Derek asked Costco to explain.
We got an email a few hours later from a Costco vice president of grocery.
The message described a program called Smart Rounding.
It took us a little bit of time to realize what we were seeing, which was an internal communication between Instacart and Costco. Inadvertently, this Costco executive forwarded us this internal email.
As far as we can tell, Instacart has only talked about smart rounding once, in a 2023 letter to shareholders. The company defined it. Machine learning-driven tool that helps retailers improve price perception and drive incremental sales. Translation: flex prices up or down based on what the algorithm says will maximize profit.
For some of our major grocery partners, this has led to millions of dollars in annual incremental sales.
Millions of dollars.
This is a very sophisticated, very deliberate, explicit attempt to maximize profits and do so somewhat surreptitiously.
We'd answered some questions. Different prices for different people. Yes. Random testing? Maybe not. Smart rounding showed it's designed for profit. Retailers in control? Debatable. Instacart sets at least one grocer's prices. But we still couldn't answer, how does the system sort people into price groups? Then one store showed us the bigger picture. Schnucks, regional grocer. They're on every Instacart press release. No price variation at all. One night it hit me. What if they already moved past online testing? You've probably heard stories about electronic shelf labels, digital price tags that can change prices instantly. If they're testing prices in store with those labels, and the app just mirrors what's on the shelf, you'd never catch it with our test, which might explain Schnucks. The typical fear with these labels is surge pricing.
Exactly.
Raising lemonade prices when it's hot out. What if the goal isn't surge pricing at all? What if it's more subtle, more permanent? Would you rather charge $10 for a bottle of water during a single hurricane? Or 20 cents more every single day? Derek had a genius.
That's interesting to think about, and that's something I hadn't considered. But the thing is, what's stopping retailers from doing both, right? Like if it has data on you and it knows what you're willing to spend, and there's an external event, like a storm, for example, and you know people are going to be buying certain products in preparation for that storm, you can apply both. You can apply algorithmic, personalized, tailored pricing, but also surge pricing as well.
Idea, patents. He found one. It described an infrastructure for constant in-store price testing. Take dozens of stores, cluster them together, test different prices in different clusters. The purpose? Find out the most profitable price point. Once you do, adopt it. We asked Schnucks and Instacart. Both denied it. But for Instacart, their website told a different story. If you go there right now, you'd see this, 3 features. Before we asked, 4 features. And the one removed, price optimization with Eversight via electronic shelf labels. Gone. So Instacart denied doing it, then changed their website. Later, they told us it was never a feature and the update was made for accuracy. But that didn't track. The feature seems to show up in past marketing materials and press releases. If it's operational, the system would be a truly impressive feat of engineering. In store, testing across locations. Online, testing across individuals. But we still couldn't answer how the online system decided who gets charged more. So we started building a theory, not based on what Instacart told us, but on what Instacart told the government. Patents. The word that appears over and over in them, it's not random. It's segmentation.
Okay, so if you watch videos on my channel pretty frequently, you'll know earlier this week I did a separate video literally about this, about how we have moved away from the traditional way of thinking of like the middle class, lower class, upper middle class, like different class-based system of social stratification, and we're moving into a tiered-based system of segmentation based on your spending power. And I covered an op-ed that was written about Disney World and how Disney is doing this, where Disney is offering different types of products and services and experiences tailored to different groups of people who have different, spending power. So if you're a wealthy person and you can afford to pay for a guide and stay at the resort and pay for one of their new like skip the line passes, like you're gonna have a far better experience than average Joe Schmo who can barely afford to cobble enough money to get a park entrance fee together, right? So this is already happening. We're seeing segmentation happen. And so it's not surprising that this is also happening in grocery stores and in everyday things. It's not just Disney World. Like we're seeing this happen everywhere, and we're being quietly shepherded into these different socioeconomic segments based on our spending power. And I think this has the potential to lock people into classes. So whereas we're accustomed to a system where social mobility is possible, with this type of algorithmic pricing and segmentation that's designed to extract profit at maximum levels from people, including using debt in order to generate that profit, you're going to see more and more people stuck and immobile where they are in the economy.
Derek started reading through the criteria they could use to sort people. Some things raised red flags. Demographics. It's illegal to charge someone more based on those. Katie controlled for that. No correlation in the sample.
I don't believe they would try to vary prices based on those kinds of characteristics, nor would it be very effective if they did. What would be way more effective and perfectly legal, as far as I know, is to vary prices based on behavioral characteristics.
Behavioral characteristics. That's exactly what the patents show. Buying behavior, purchase history, how frequently you shop, whether you're shopping around, coupon usage, loyalty program participation, an infrastructure that tracks everything you do, uses it to decide what to charge you. We asked Instacart, does this explain who gets sorted into different price groups? Their response? One old patent from 2015, before we purchased Eversight. Patents are always broad. This doesn't prove we're actually using this technology. Fair point. Here's the same chart and a host of other patents, mostly about promotions. Marketing material that touts the patents. And then this one, a promotional patent that describes shopper and product headroom. Meaning, how much more money could this person spend overall? And how much more could they spend on this product? The patent says they can calculate this for every individual consumer. But for efficiency, typically people are grouped with similar consumers. Groups, just like our test showed.
Every company that I know is practicing first-degree price discrimination strenuously denies that they're doing so.
And again, Instacart denies segmenting people by personal or behavioral data. What happens when companies actually do this at scale? In 2022, Uber rolled out algorithmic pricing for riders and drivers. Len studied what happened next.
For the next 3 years, average rider price per mile went up, 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 up.
Uber denies all of this. But at about this time, they went from burning money to a cash machine.
That's why more and more companies are trying as hard as they can to perfect this dark art. Devilishly effective dark art, as I've called it. That's how you turn grocery sales into a gold mine.
Now, algorithmic pricing sometimes offers lower prices, and the total impact on grocery prices, impossible to measure. Instacart is just one company, a sliver of the grocery market. They claim 10 clients with Eversight. What are other companies doing? I started looking.
Pricing is the single most powerful lever to raise profits, far more effective than either boosting sales or cutting costs.
Prices optimized. Profit increases.
There's an entire industry built around optimizing grocery prices. I called Earl Schweizer, 25 years in grocery, former VP of grocery at Whole Foods. Why is everyone racing to adopt this?
It's very much defensive. Amazon's already doing it. Walmart is doing it. So everybody's got to keep up.
Merchants, pricing team.
He raises a really good point there. And what's important to consider is that Amazon and Walmart dominate, obviously, in the space. They are dominating in digital grocery or delivery. And Instagram is just like a third-party integrator that works with a lot of other grocery store chains. But really, it's Amazon and Walmart that are the key players, and they already have this infrastructure. So he's absolutely right. Like, everyone else is keeping up, and Amazon for sure has been, algorithmically pricing things for years now. So it's not a surprise at all that we're starting to see this. And when you think of collecting behavioral data and pricing accordingly, like Amazon is the first company that comes to mind. So this makes perfect sense.
They all rely on technology and algorithms to safeguard their profits.
That's Walmart's former VP of pricing.
So Instacart has played this really vital role for the competitors of Amazon and Walmart, which is pretty much almost everybody else, to have a lot of the same tools and access to consumers as the big guys.
The systems are watching you, learning your patterns, using that to charge everyone accordingly.
They know things about us that we don't know. They're smarter than us, and we're training them in a way that is incalculable.
This didn't happen overnight. 20 years of building this infrastructure. It was kept in check by inertia. Everyone was afraid to raise prices. COVID changed that.
There's no guardrails. It's a free-for-all. It's a wild, wild west.
And it's not just COVID either. So long as we blame inflation, everyone's like, oh, inflation, inflation, inflation. And we just accept that as the status quo. It's provided cover for these companies to do that. And I'm guilty of this, right? Like, I'm guilty. I frequently blame inflation. But it's more than just inflation. There is an element of deliberate price gouging here. And the fast food companies are saying it. Like I said, in Vegas, the resort operators are saying this. They're finding data here with grocery and Instacart. Like, this is happening across industries. And it's affecting different groups of people. So it's clear this is happening at scale. And it's not just inflation. Inflation has provided the cover to test prices in a way that, like they were saying here, that companies weren't comfortable with before. And now that you and I have signaled through continuing to purchase products that we're willing to buy things at a higher rate, that has set a new price floor. So prices aren't going to go back down. Even if we solved inflation, went back on the gold standard, whatever. Even if we fix that, like prices still wouldn't come back down because we, the consumer, have set the new standard from which these businesses are operating on.
Companies are investing millions into systems designed to outsmart you. Testing, learning, finding the maximum profit.
The holy grail for a long time has been, what if we could charge every single person the maximum amount that we know they're able to or willing to pay? Studies like this are just validating that firms are very much already midway through trying this, executing it.
That's Lina Khan, former chair of the Federal Trade Commission. She agreed to review our findings with an eye to how we should protect consumers.
This could ultimately end up being another big form of wealth transfer from ordinary Americans to massive corporations.
I asked about the in-store testing apparatus, electronic shelf labels, the patents.
Firms have been trying to figure that out for many decades, but I think what's different now is both the sophistication of the tools that are available, just the deep information asymmetries that exist between consumers and these firms that are benefiting.
But there was something else that concerned her.
When you have companies like Instacart that could be facilitating, it could also ultimately allow firms that really should be competing against one another when setting these prices to actually engage more in something that looks like price fixing.
And this is what's been happening.
Because it could mean that one company, Instacart, is setting prices for retailers who should be competing with each other. Then I asked her about regulation. Her answer surprised me.
I think we need to have a much more first order conversation about, do we even want to permit some of these tactics in the first instance?
Under Khan's watch, the FTC started an investigation into surveillance pricing.
This week, it launched an investigation, the FTC, into the use of AI to rapidly change pricing.
That investigation is now in question. The Trump administration claims it is ongoing, but Khan's replacement stopped public comments. But Lina pointed out that states don't need to wait for the Trump administration.
The steps we've seen, even from states like California and New York, to ban certain types of algorithmic price fixing in areas like housing and rent, for example, I think are extraordinarily important steps. We need more investigations. So I think we need a 360 view to try to understand what's really happening here.
5 months, 3 organizations, 400 volunteers. We know the system exists for surveillance pricing, but we don't know if it's operational, because we can't see inside. And that's intentional. It's a system that's designed to stay hidden.
This work that you all have done is fantastic, but state AGs have subpoena power. They can be requesting and demanding information so they can look under the hood and be understanding how are firms actually using this data.
All right, so like I said, I don't really agree with their prescription for this. I don't think regulation is the answer. I don't think it's up to us to say what is permitted and what's not, unfortunately, because that just leads to more bureaucracy and government encroachment on different activities. And for better or for worse, like there are benefits, like I said, like the inventory management tracking stuff, which they didn't talk about in this coverage of it. So it's a double-edged sword, and I don't know that regulating like AI companies and companies doing using this technology is going to be beneficial. Like look how well we've done regulating social media companies and Google and all that, right? Like I think that's a fool's errand to try to regulate. So what is the solution? Like what do we do about this? Because I think it's clear this is indeed happening. Like you wouldn't spend millions of dollars rolling out digital pricing infrastructure, building out all these apps and these platforms if you weren't trying to do this, right? So let's assume that this is happening. The objective of companies is to maximize profits, to provide maximum shareholder value to their investors. So maximization at scale, that is the objective now. So that means they're out to get as much profit as possible. So we can't fight back, obviously, because of the asymmetries that they referenced here. Like they just have so much more data about us than we do. And we don't know what they've been collecting. We don't know how the profiles they've built on us, how they've segmented us, the cohorts we've been put in. Like we don't know this information, right? We think we know, but we don't. So the solution, in my opinion, isn't to necessarily fight against these systems and this infrastructure, because I think it's already here and it's only going to continue expanding, especially as AI continues to advance and it's more and more rolled out. I think the solution is to pull back And so that requires us, the consumers, to reclaim agency over our purchasing power and our spending habits, to collect data on ourselves, to understand our own behaviors, so we're at least aware of the information that these companies are collecting on us, and to make deliberate decisions, to start spending differently. So an example, I've shared this in other videos, but I've been actively doing this. For this past year, I have literally itemized and recorded every single purchase I have made at the grocery store. So I can tell you, this is how I know prices are going up, because I can say, back in February or back in January, I paid, this price for one item, and then you come down here all the way to the bottom, and you come down to November, and it's like, okay, and then I paid a different price for another item. So I have all this data, but aside from like the price increases, what this also tells me is what I'm buying. So now looking forward, I can change my shopping habits. I can stop relying on grocery stores. So I know, for example, I buy a ton of cilantro, probably on a weekly basis. I buy, a lot of parsley and some other herbs. So one of my goals for 2026 is to successfully start an herb garden. So I no longer have to rely on the grocery store for herbs and basil and parsley and cilantro. Okay, so getting that out of the way. Eventually, I want to get to a point where I'm an actual gardener. That's a skill you got to learn, but I'm hopeful I can work towards that. So I know here, okay, these are some of the products that I purchase on a regular basis, some of the produce that I regularly purchase. Okay, well, let me figure out how to grow this, and then obviously learn how to preserve it, how to can it, how to freeze it, how to incorporate it into different things, start moving in that direction, right? And then of course, I know certain quantities I buy. So I buy a lot of beans, for example. Well, I know based on this annualized data, how much beans I buy. So moving forward, I can go to a larger distributor instead of a grocery store and buy a 25-pound bag of black beans instead of, going to the store and buying a 1-pound bag every single time. So the goal here is to reduce trips to the grocery store. Yes, I'm still going to have to go, right? I can't I can't grow bananas in my backyard, right? So I'm going to have to go there. But I can start making different choices. I can start going to the farmer's market. And that's something, I also intend to do in 2026 and be more mindful of that. So deliberately choosing local suppliers, local farmers to purchase produce from, stocking up on essentials like beans and flour and sugar and like pantry staples, keeping a supply of that, an actual inventory and pantry in my own home, to mitigate the times I have to go to the store and learn how to grow some of my own stuff. I think those are steps everyone can take, things you can do. I don't use Instacart. I don't intend to use Instacart. I don't do any digital ordering, in part for this reason, because I do know they're manipulating prices, but I also just really like the grocery store. So, not engaging with these, no one is holding a gun to your head forcing you to use Instacart, right? I get it's convenient. The price you're paying for convenience is potentially higher prices because of algorithmic and dynamic pricing. Other things you can do, and this might not be popular, this is something I do and I'm working to do more of, is to pay with things in cash, right? The less digital stuff you're using, the less you're tapping your phone or swiping a card, the fewer opportunities these companies have to collect data on you. If you're paying with cash is agnostic. They can't collect data on you if you're paying, $20 bills. So now might be a really good time to start rethinking those credit cards, right? Maybe the loyalty apps and all the rewards you think you're getting, maybe it's not worth it, right? So I would start critically thinking about how you're paying for things. So not just what you're buying, how you're paying, who you're purchasing things from, right? This is, I think, how we reclaim our power. We're not going to regulate our way out of this. We don't have the average Main Street American doesn't have the lobbyists on K Street in DC advocating on our behalf. We know that our Congress people are not working on our behalf on both sides of the aisle. They don't really care about us. So it's up to us to vote with our wallets, literally vote with our feet, and be the demand and change the demand for this. And this is happening. Like I said, this is happening in Vegas. Tourists are opting out and people are noticing. So we do have power. We do have power to say no to this kind of stuff, but it takes an effort on our part to begin analyzing our own behavior, understanding what we're doing, and change, create a course of action to change accordingly. So I'll just close by saying, like I said, I wrote this last year, I tend to write stuff like this pretty frequently, and like I hate being right about some of this stuff because it is really dark. Like I don't want to go down a dystopian like rabbit hole where we're all paying like tailored prices for things, but it's pretty clear like that is the path we're heading down. So if you found this essay insightful, you can find more stuff like this over on Tomorrow Today on Substack. Definitely, feel free to subscribe, poke around. Lots of essays on here. I also write a newsletter on a weekly basis called The Big Five. So these are big economic stories, and I send this out every week. And there's always different things, but it'll be something like this. It'll come to your inbox, and this is totally free, so you can get this, and it gives you insight into how the economy is playing out on Main Street. So how you and I are experiencing the economy, not just like what's happening on Wall Street, not about just like the quarterly earnings reports, like what's actually happening for us average folks, right? So that's what this covers. So if you're interested, just go check it out, poke around, let me know what you think. If you found this video insightful and you enjoyed this analysis, I would love it if you would like, subscribe, share with someone you know, because like I said, this kind of stuff doesn't discriminate against political lines. It doesn't care about your race. It doesn't care about your religion or your ethnicity. Like, this is affecting all of us, right? So the more aware you are that surveillance pricing is happening, the better prepared you will be to take action in 2026 and beyond, to make different choices, consumer choices, to wrest back some power and control. Otherwise, if you continue to live passively, it's clear your data is being hoovered up, and it will be used to price gouge you until there's nothing left. So definitely like be aware this is happening. So I appreciate you for watching as always. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.